Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to explore how we can use the LimitToList property in conjunction with the onNotInList event to control what users can and cannot input into a combo box. And if they make entries that aren't already part of the list, give them the option to add them to that listing. So for future reference, they'll be able to use that new option. How does it all work? I have an article that covers, the global issue. I'm going to instead be going into a demo database to show you hands-on. It's the better way to learn, but you guys can always turn back to the actual article for a copy-paste of the code in question. The article is broken down into 2 or 3, depending how you look at it, sections. So I start off with the typical approach. Now this is what you're going to find on 95% of the blogs out there. This is typically how people approach the situation. We'll look into this initially, and then we're going to move on to the improved approach, where we're going to use a custom function. And later, I'm going to show you a second version of that same function, taking it even a little bit further. Okay, enough chit chat. That's not what you're here for. You want to see this in function. So how does this all work? What am I talking about? Well, we have here, for instance, the salutation combo box, and we've got these different things, different options, and it's all glorious if you pick an option that already exists. But what happens if I come and I say I want to put in just M? Well, now I can offer the user, well, it's not there. Do you want to add it to the list? If they say no, well, then the list pops back up and it's basically telling them, you have to make a choice from the existing list. M isn't there. So then they can come and pick what they want. Or this, oh, I made a mistake. And here we're asking them again, and they can say, yes, I want to add it. And now M is in the list. And you can check it's actually been added to the table properly through this automation. What is this automation? How did I set all of this up? It's really, really simple. Let's go into design view. Let's look at this combo box. Let's start off with the basics. Okay, so the combo box is getting its information, its data, its row information from a row source, which is what? A simple query of the salutation table, in which I'm returning the column, the primary key, the salutation ID, the numeric value. And then I have here the salutation, which is the textual value, which is what we're showing the user. Now, if we press run, you'll see, there you go, the 2 columns. So I got the numeric primary key, and I've got the textual value that I actually want to show the user and allow the user to select. So remember, this is column 1, this is column 2. Okay, so when we look at that, so that's our query that allows the combo box to retrieve information to display. You'll see here I'm bound to the column number 1, the first column. So that salutation ID, the primary key. Because what do I want to store in my table? It's the actual numeric value of the primary key, not the textual one. We don't want to store text for no reason. And then we come here in the format, and you'll see that I've set, there's 2 columns in my query, so I'm setting 2 columns. And then in the width, I'm setting 0. Now what this does is it's setting the first column to 0, and the second one will take up all the space that's available. We could also come and say, I want it to be 1.25, whatever dimension we want. We could be explicit and define both columns, but a little trick when you just have 2 is you can just set it to 0, and the other one's automatically going to take up all the available space. So that's it. We have 2 columns, and I define their widths. Now we come back here, and how do we now trigger all of this and limit the user to only the choices that we give to them? Well, that's by setting the LimitToList to yes. So if it isn't set yet, if it's set to no, the user can put anything they want. Now it may error out in a context of this where there's 2 columns and the primary bound key is numeric and they go enter a text. It's not going to work, obviously. But there are cases where you may have the LimitToList to no and you're going to allow any entry. But in a properly normalized situation, such as this, we're always going to want to set the limit to limit yes. So users have to follow and use the values in the normalized child table. And then because we've done this, then we come and we use the onNotInList event. Let's take a look at it very quickly. And you'll see this is a verbatim from the website. How does it all work? We come here, we're asking, using the message box, a question to the user. So we're going to say to it, you know, the new value, which is something that's automatically triggered by the combo box NotInList. So the new value is whatever they typed in that wasn't in the existing listing. So it's the new value that they put in. And we're going to come here and they're going to say that new value, whatever it is, it's not in the list. You want to add it. Now you can make the question however you want to, phrase it. That's up to you. Same thing with the title, all of this. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask the user, do you want to add it? And we're going to look back here for a VB okay, a VB yes. It depends which combo box setup you do. But we're going to look for an affirmation from the user. If they agree and they say, yes, I want to add it, this is a new entry, a new category, a new, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to go open up the table that the choices come from. And we're going to add a new record. And we're going to pass that new entry, that new data, to the column, the textual column, not the primary key, obviously, the textual, so the salutation column. And then we're going to do an update, which saves that new entry. And then we end it all off by returning a response. Now, the response depends. If they agreed to add it and everything works successfully, there are no errors, we're going to end up here. Well, then we're going to return an acDataErrAdded. So we're telling it everything works successfully. It was added to the table. And that effectively is going to requery the combo box to show that new entry. And it's going to keep the new value as a proper entry. If the user, on the other hand, said no or canceled out or whatever, it's going to skip over this. It's going to come to the else, in which case the response is going to be acDataErrContinue. So it's not, we didn't add anything. We still have the error continue. And that's where you're going to get the drop down to go and make a selection. Now, at this point, if you wanted before that, you could pop up a message here saying, the item you selected is not currently in the list. Please select one from the existing list. Because they opted out of adding it. So they made that choice. Maybe we want to reaffirm to them, okay, that's fine, but pick something from the list because your choice currently is not valid. But these are all design choices that you make. So that's for the basic approach. So let's just quickly look at it in function. We just open up this. And like I did before, you could do whatever we wanted. And just say it's not on the list, yes. And as we saw before, it gets added. Okay. Now, where's the problem with this approach? Well, the problem with this approach is imagine a database where you have 10 combo boxes, 20 combo boxes, 30 combo boxes. And you're going to do a NotInList for all of these different combo boxes. So you're going to copy all of this code over and over and over and over. And then one day you decide, well, you know what? I don't like the way my message box question is set up. I want to alter it. Well, now I got to go alter it in 30 different locations in code. What a pain in the butt to maintain and to update. So what's the better approach? Well, the better approach, if we comment this out for 2 seconds, is something more like this. So what are we doing? We're using a NotInList event. It's the exact same NotInList event. But instead of all that code, now we're calling a function. We're calling a single function where we're going to pass it information. Let's look at the function for a second and we'll come back to the call. What is this function? So this is the one that's on my website. And everything's in the header. I break down what each of these input arguments are. So what each of these guys are here. But let's look at them for a second. So new data it's the new data from the function, the event, should I say, sorry. So if we come back here, the new data, it's the new data. Nothing surprising there. It's whatever the user entered that you're questioning them if they want to add it to the existing list or not. Then we have to supply it. Well, what table are we adding it to? What's the primary key of that table? The column name. What's the column name where we want to add this new value to? So it would be, if we look at the example we were talking about before, so primary key is salutation ID. the field we actually want to add the new value to is going to be salutation. What is the plural of the subject category that we're adding a value to? So in the context, we're adding, let's say, a new salutation. Well, the plural would be salutations. If we were looking at, let's say, a category, well, then the plural would be categories. Now, why am I interested in that? It's simply for generating the message box properly with the proper verbiage. That's all. So it's a text thing. I have, because I pulled this from another database, so I'm just leaving it here. It shows you as an example, but it was from a multilingual system. So I have an option where you can specify the language of the message box. And then lastly, there's an option for a form. And basically, there are cases where the new entry is not as simple as just a single new data item. Sometimes you have to fill in all sorts of other information. So in certain cases, you may want to do a pop-up form where the user can add the necessary extra information before proceeding back to the combo box. So it's an edge case, but the option is there. Now let's just quickly drive through the rest of this. So we're going to look at that optional language. And like I said, if the user said it's French, well, then here it would pop out the French. We can do Spanish, whatever language you want. You can have as many as you want in this case scenario. But it was just to show how easy you can configure some of this stuff for multilingual use. Then we come down here. And you see, I'm using, in my case, a dialogue. It's the enhanced message boxes on my website. It makes it a lot nicer for the end user. But I also have here, as you can see, just the standard message box if that was what you wanted to do. But here we go. We ask them the question, so the message, depending on which language we selected. And then we come back here and we're going to look, did they say yes to adding it or not? If they said yes, we're following the same pattern. We're going to open the table that we specified in our call. We're going to go find the field that we specified in our call, and we're going to assign it the new data value, and then we're going to save it. Then we're going to come and we're going to retrieve the primary key column, and we're going to pull its value. Why? Because of that pop-up form. So if we want that, if we specify that we need, for whatever reason, a form to pop up as a dialog for them to do some other entry values, well, then we need that primary key value to be able to retrieve that specific record so then they can continue editing. If they don't, it just skips over this, nothing happens. And then lastly but not least, we have to return a value, the response. So was it added or is it continue? So it's the same general concept, okay? But now it's just one line. Now I can have 30 instances of this, for instance. But if I need to make a change, I can come here and I can change it here in 2 seconds, and now all 30 instances have been updated. So from a maintenance perspective, this is so much better. You want to add new functionality, you do it in one spot, and all of them instantaneously have been updated. So let's go back to our form and just quickly look, what does this version look like? So we come in and we want that. As you can see, the dialog, the enhanced message box, is much nicer than the default message box. Much nicer. And you can do HTML, so you can do colors and bold and all sorts of nifty stuff. It's the same basic idea, but much nicer. They say no, we're back to the same scenario. You pick from the existing listing. But if they say yes, boom, there it is. It's now there. It's now here as well. Okay, so we've looked over the first scenario, the improved version, but as I said to you, there's a second version of that same function. So let's come here for a second, and let's say we're in Canada, we're Quebec, and then I say, no, I'm the wrong town, and we're going to say, okay, we're actually in Saint Laurent. And let's say we move forward. There's a problem here. As you saw, these are related combo boxes. So it only shows the regions of the specified country. It only shows the cities of the specified region. So therefore, for me to be able to enter a new city, okay, we're going to do it. I'm going to say yes. If we pull up cities and we look at that entry, you see it didn't just add Saint Laurent, it actually had to populate the region. So we had to do 2 column entries, not 1. And if you remember correctly, here, we're only adding 1 column. We're only adding that new value to a single column. So how do we now handle scenarios where maybe there's 2, maybe there's 3 columns we have to update with relative information that's already on the form? That's where my second version of the function. So basically I took this guy and I just kept working on it to accommodate such scenarios. Don't get me wrong. This here will probably work 90-95% of the time. But there are those other 5 to 10% where this isn't going to work. And I just still didn't want to go back to the typical approach. I wanted a function that allowed me to work and have 1 location to update. So it wasn't very hard. Just scroll down. Here's the second version. So I just called it the advanced. And you'll notice now, this is the key part. So all of this is the same. All of this is the same. But here, the fields. If we come back up here, oops, we simply had a field name, right? It was a static value that we then used here as to which column to update. Now, we're going to pass it a variant, an array, which fields need to be updated. And then what we're going to do is down here, we're going to loop through those fields and update the field with the field value. So if we come and we look and we find the city NotInList right here. Oops, sorry. Okay. How does it work? Well, we're going to define an array of field values. And we're going to come here and we're going to say, so the first one, it's the city column and the new value that they added. But the second column we also have to adjust for or add or enter a value for is the region ID. And what's the value of that? Well, in that case, the value of that column is going to be the region ID that's already been specified on the form. So the region ID is actually this column here. So I'm going to insert Saint Laurent, but I also need to first grab the numeric value of the binding column here, Quebec. And as you can see, this is just an array we're building. So, you know, we could do a 3rd column, a 4th column, 10 column. It makes no difference. As many as we need. That's the flexibility of using the advanced version. So the rest of the call is the same. We pass the new data, which table, what's the primary key of that table. We pass it the fields that we defined here, however many there are. What's the plural term of what we're working on? So cities, and what language do we want it in? And as you saw, very easy. Now we can add anything we want. Do you want to add Kirkland? Yes. Once again, it added Kirkland, but it also added 1. Just to demonstrate how easy it is, I make that change, and now, what do we have? I'm not even sure where we are here. DDO, and as you see, it's already in French. I did not translate the heading of the message box, so there you go, something I have to adjust on my end, but you see how easy it is to instantaneously translate things. The functionality, the VBA code doesn't change, it's just how it gets presented, the message that gets presented to the end user. But basically that's it. You now have a very basic solution. You have a more versatile approach, or you can go, all the way in and have the ultimate approach that can handle pretty much 99.9% of all the cases you'll ever need. I hope this helps a few of you out there. Like I said, all the code is available on my website, plus the video here. You're set to go. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.